Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in about 30 seconds or so. All right, let's see. All right. I think we can go ahead and get started today. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here for another coffee session sponsored by the California Department of Education, or CDE. My name is Tyler Shakwa. I work for the training and outreach team here at ETS, and I'll be guiding you through this session today where we've got a few prepared topics. And then, of course, as always, the Q&A is open. If you put questions in there, colleagues of mine from ETS or from the CDE will answer those questions. We'll try to read some of them out loud as well. And as usual, the chat is closed to participants, and we'll just be using that to send out some links. So you can put all of your questions in that Q&A feature. And if you would like access to today's materials, to our slides and a resource guide with links, you can go to our upcoming training opportunities page on our website on CAASPP-LPAC.org. You can also get there through our link tree, and we'll also put some links in the chat shortly here. But you can get to that link tree if you want to type it in. You can go to linktr.ee/Cal Outreach. You select upcoming training opportunities, find the coffee session under the current month of December, and you'll see links for that resource guide and PowerPoint file. All right. Our agenda for today. It should be relatively quick, but well, I guess we'll see how fast we get through. So we'll go through our training opportunities and some new and updated resources like usual. We've got a quick tools for teachers announcement and note about the California alternate assessment for science. Talk a little bit quickly about locked demographics fields, and then finish up with test security, call drivers, and reminders, and the Q&A to finish us out today. So let's go ahead and dive in. We'll start with training opportunities. So tomorrow on December 10th, we'll have our second pre-test virtual training series session, and that one will focus on what's new for CAASPP. We had our first pre-test session last week on the 3rd that covered ELPAC topics. The recording for that should be available pretty soon. But if you have not signed up yet for pretest and didn't join us for the ELPAC session, definitely join us tomorrow for the CAASPP session. Let's see, December 11th, the day after tomorrow, there'll be another new coordinator training webinar. This is webinar number 8 in that series that will also cover preparing for testing a little bit more. So we cover preparing for testing in our pre-test sessions as well, but especially for the new coordinator audience, if you're pretty new to your role, those new coordinator trainings are the best place to get really comprehensive information. So that'll be a good session as well. And then December 18th and 19th, there are some Connect for Success sessions, which are a great opportunity to meet your success agents if you haven't done that already, if you just want to get to know them a little bit better. And they also will, provide some tips that are timely that they're hearing about from LEAs, and often they'll um, be able to answer questions that you have a little bit more in detail. So definitely sign up for that if that sounds helpful. And then on in January, a little bit of a advance notice on these site administrator assessment convenings. So we wanted to bring these up a little extra early because we'd love for you to encourage your site administrators to register and attend one of these two site administrator convenings hosted by SCOE, the Sacramento County Office of Education. Um, these convenings are an opportunity to hear directly from CDE staff about assessment resources, and ask questions and share topic related ideas with other site administrators throughout the state. So we're really trying to encourage site administrators. So we'd love it if you can pass that opportunity along to site administrators in your districts or LEAs. Um, and I think those January ones will be focusing on um, supporting folks in identifying accessibility resources for their students on the CAASPP and ELPAC and formative assessment resources, as well as upcoming training opportunities. So those are January 13th from 9 to 10 a.m. and January 20th from 12 to 1 p.m. And all the information and links are on our upcoming training site webpage as well. And then, of course, in January, we'll also have our next coffee session on January 13th, the second Tuesday. All right. And then, of course, as always, we encourage folks to get involved in um, opportunities to shape assessments in the future. There's a few specific deadlines that are coming up in January. So the deadline for the alternate ELPAC item review meeting is January 2nd, 2026, and then January 30th, 2026 for the summative ELPAC data review meeting. So if you're interested in applying to those, you can go to our Get Involved page on our website or use this QR code to get there. All right, some new and updated resources here. So there were some updated estimated testing times added to our test administration training and tutorials webpage. So that's the webpage that has all of the information about our Moodle courses, the AST, ELPAC AST courses, and CAASPP Moodle courses as well. The resource graphics were updated. Accessibility resource graphics were updated for the 25-26 test administration. So you can also find those on our website. There was some updated information in our scoring and reporting guide concerning the California Spanish Assessment or CSA content and SSR subsections. So that information has been updated. And then also a couple of handy PDF resources, the CAASPP and ELPAC student needs matching tools. Those were updated recently as well. And then a few recent trainings that were recorded and posted on our website, the November coffee session, as well as the previous new coordinator training webinar, number 7, the first preparing for testing session. So those recordings are available. And like I mentioned before, I think last week's pretest session recording should be up any day now. All right. Quick note about tools for teachers. So this spring, Smarter Balanced is beginning development of some kindergarten, first grade, and second grade lesson plans for inclusion in the Tools for Teachers website that has all kinds of formative assessment resources. And all of the resources on Tools for Teachers have input or are developed directly by educators. So we would love to help. We would love for you all to help us spread the word to any kindergarten through grade 2 educators who might be interested in helping out with the development of those resources. So If you have any experience of that or know someone who might be interested, you can send referrals to Tammy Saldana at the CDE, and we can put Tammy's email in the chat, but it's tsaldana@cde.ca.gov. All right. Quick note about the CAA for Science. You are probably aware that the CAA for Science administration is a little bit different than some of our other assessments, where students assigned for that test should be completing embedded performance tasks shortly after the content um, has been received by the student. So um, that means that generally this test is being administered throughout the year. This year there's 3 of these embedded performance tasks instead of previously there were 4 throughout the year. But this is just a reminder that students who have not begun testing the CAA for Science yet, who are assigned, should begin to do so as soon as possible. We know that there's a lot of communication involved there, and there's a lot of stuff going on for those students and the teachers involved. But as much as you can do to help aid that process is always welcome. And there's more information about administering the CAA for Science, including links to those administration planning guide documents that are super helpful in this. Those can be found, the links for that all can be found in your resource guide.
And Tyler, can
Yeah,
I pause you for a second just for a
please.
clarification? Back on slide, I think it was 10, it was the resources slide. We mentioned that the updated estimated testing times. So the link is to the test administration training and tutorials webpage, but we mentioned updated testing times. Did we update testing times or did we update the amount of time it takes to complete the training?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, I
And
It
if we
might
think,
don't,
be
if we don't know that
training
one off the bat, we can ask Dina to do a little research for us.
yeah, I'll do some research and I will get back to you.
Okay, we just want clarification on whether it was the training times that were updated or
or
updated
testing,
testing
like
time.
student
Yes,
testing times. Yeah, I think it's training times probably.
I think so too.
I think
But
so too.
yeah, thank you for that. We'll make sure to clarify. Okay. Locked demographics. Okay, so this is a topic that comes up um, that we've been talking about the past couple years, trying to make clear which demographic fields for students can be changed and are important to have correct before students start summative testing. Um, so if we can go to the next slide when you get a chance. So that the student demographic information in TOMS that comes over from CalPads, multiple fields of that demographic information locks when a student starts a summative assessment. And that's a summative assessment for ELPAC or for CAASPP, whatever comes first, which is usually summative ELPAC if they're doing both. Um, so uh, it's really important for you to make sure that data is clean so that end of year reporting goes smoothly and that you don't need to make any changes throughout the testing season. So there's a complete list of which fields get locked for the CASP and LPAC, and that list is available in the locked fields subsection of the TOMS user guide. So there are links to that in your resource guide. Yeah, just it's worth double checking that for sure. It's an important thing that a lot of people miss. That is, it's just much easier if you kind of pay a little bit of attention to it before you start getting into summative testing. All right. So now I am going to hand it off to Mr. Moses Jorge, who's going to take us through some test security topics.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Tyler. And before I jump right into the topic. Let me take a second to first and foremost of greatest importance. I think this is the last time we're going to see each other. All 250 of you amazing, dedicated servants of our students before the holidays. So as you can see here, we're all in the holiday spirit already, and we want to wish you the very best of this holiday break that you so well deserve. All that you have been doing this first semester in your dedication to our students, boy, we can't thank you enough, and we want to really wish you, every single one of you, the very best of holiday seasons. Disconnect, please. Leave your computers at work. Disconnect. Get yourselves with your families and enjoy the holiday break that you so deserve. And again, know that we appreciate you tremendously for everything that you do for our students. That said, let me make a quick connection to something Tyler just finished talking about. That CAA for science has a connection to what he mentioned us in the next section about the locked demographics. I need to make sure I point out two very important things. First of all, as Tyler mentioned, this would really be a good time before you go on winter break, LEA coordinators. Take a second to see where your students and their teachers are that take the CAA for science. Take a minute. I want to let you process this. A whole semester has gone by already, pretty much. A lot of teaching has taken place with those teachers of the children that take the CAA for science. Okay, you got that? So think about what Tyler said. That assessment is designed so that as the teacher teaches the concept, they give that student the opportunity to take that component of their assessment, the CAA for science. So at this point, before January, before you go on winter break, LEA coordinators think there might be a good opportunity for you to stop, go into your completion status reports, look for some of your students that are supposed to take the CAA for science, and see if they've taken any part of it. And it might be a good opportunity to reach out to those sites, to reach out to those site coordinators and just say, hey, don't forget, the CAA for science is structured this way, and possibly a lot of us instruction has taken place. Come January, come February, we're going to be helping you with that. We're going to be looking and nudging you along as you monitor that very important assessment and how the teachers are making sure. The last thing in the world we want is April or May for them to be giving all three of them. Because again, we want that assessment's intended purpose, that it be connected to the instruction. And then lastly, connection to that point is the issue of the locked demographics for those students. Remember what Tyler mentioned on that slide. When a student starts an assessment, a summative assessment, that's when it triggers the locking of those fields. So in the case of these children, the CAA for science, it's their summative. So for those that started, keep in mind their fields. That list that Tyler linked on that slide for you, for those students, their fields locked when they started taking any one of the three components of that CAA for science. So there are some connections. Now let's take a second, breathe. This is a good time to take a minute to think through some important considerations around this topic. This is why I've chosen it for this month to be the topic of focus for test security. Our TOMS accounts, LEA coordinators, as the primary managers of the TOMS accounts. We know that there's the guide that talks you through and that you manage the TOMS accounts. Let's just take a second. This is a good time to reflect and think about some important reminders around our management as LEA coordinators of the TOMS accounts that we grant. And so here are some just quick reminders to put in your mind that this is again a good time before next January, February, and then the real heated times of testing kick in. Let's take a minute to take a look at some of these considerations. First and foremost, LEA staff, employees of the LEA, can be granted Tom's accounts. And here now, the forms that they need to sign. For some ELPAC, for some CAASPP, but definitely those forms that need to be signed. And to whatever extent possible, one of the other things we're going to look at in just a minute is when you do training around the use of those Tom's accounts, take time to really understand and make sure that they understand what it is that they are signing in those agreements. Okay, all other roles aside from the interim assessment role, they must sign the appropriate security form. But let me take a minute and make another huge pitch for the importance of from the beginning of the year when you're possibly giving interim assessments account to all those individuals that are going to be using the interim assessments. While again, it's not mandatory, boy, do I want to make sure that you know how valuable it is. And the link is there on this slide. Take advantage of using that sample interim assessment test security agreement that was developed for you this year. Use it as a tool. Use it as a tool not only to make sure that the users understand the security guidelines of the interim assessments, but for you and your staffs to understand how important it is that we all take and protect that incredibly valuable resource called the interim assessments. So use that. And then, as I mentioned, there's the overview section of the Tom's user guide that has the user roles. And so as you use that for you, let me also remind you of a few other important details. On the next slide, please keep in mind, okay, some details of practical management that need to be shared with everyone that gets a Tom's account. Like, for example, and boy, here it goes connected to one of the other sub bullets. Tom's accounts cannot be generic to something like an individual called ELPAC tester. Okay, that's not an appropriate name, and it's not an appropriate idea of having an account that is shared. So Tom's accounts cannot be shared, cannot be used by multiple individuals. Do you remember a few years ago what we did of that fact that if you're going to log in on another device, you know what happens? You're sent a code. Okay, all that revolved around this idea. Tom's accounts cannot be shared. Okay. Here's another really interesting one. LEA coordinators, please help us. Please help us monitor this next point. ELPAC tester is not an appropriate first and last name to be on a Tom's account, because these Tom's accounts, again, are connected to an individual that signed a security affidavit. And it has to be connected back to that name of that individual that signed the security affidavit. So, and not only that one, but here's another little detail aside from the first and last name. You know that other field right after you type in first and last name and email address, the next mandated field? Phone number? Okay. How many times, please, LEA coordinators, help us with this, help us manage this. It cannot be 999 999 9999. Okay. That's a mandated field for a reason. We need to make sure that security wise, that is all connected back to an individual who signed that security affidavit that you gave the Tom's account to. So take a second, think those through, see if there are any questions around this so far and our Tom's accounts and some of the things that we're putting on your plate to not only remember, but to help us with.
And Moses, I just wanted to bring up a question that someone put in our Q&A, but I thought it was worth answering live. The person asked, is the interim assessment test security agreement separate from the one that people sign when they go into Tom's? And the answer to that is yes, they are absolutely separate. The one that you go into Tom's is mandatory. You have to sign it. The interim assessment security agreement is optional for you to use. Some LEAs find it helpful, but we do not make it mandatory that you use that one. So there's no electronically signing. It's just on our test security webpage, and I can put a link to that in the chat for you.
Thank you, Christine. And I'll just take that statement and that answer, Christine, to then before I move on to the last set of please don't minimize. Please don't minimize the importance of the integrity of the interim assessments. As Christine said, it is true, folks. There isn't a mandatory signing in TOMS for the interim assessment account. But boy, for those of us who value, for the entire state of California and all of our students who value so much the importance of the interim assessment system, please help us to maintain the integrity of the interim assessments by making sure that our teachers understand all of the security components that have to be kept in mind as we work with the interim assessments. So yeah, thank you, Christine, for that clarification. And add to that again, we need to make sure that our staffs understand. And right there, that sample agreement, if you take time to read what is on there, it really clearly defines for our teachers the importance and the steps that have to be taken to maintain the integrity of the interim assessments. And finally, I just want to share a couple of last details with regards to Tom's accounts. LEA coordinators, again, help us be cautious when assigning accounts. I want to bring a few details to your forefront of your minds as you're thinking about some of these accounts. And for example, there are these two accounts that aren't so often the popular ones that we work with, but that have incredible important details that have to be accounted for. Do you know that account called Educator Test Site? An Educator District? Okay, I want you to think about that. I want you to think about how do you use them? Who do you give them to? Who are you giving? Because again, here now, I want you to make sure you understand and that those who are getting them understand some of the implications and important aspects of those two accounts. Please note that those two accounts are granting access to all data for all students, either at the site or in the district. And so, LEA coordinators, we need to have that in mind. We need to think about the implications of who we're giving that kind of access to for the sake of data and also for the sake of that other incredibly important thing called PII and our students' personal information. So think through and be judicious with how we manage the TOMS accounts. A couple of little anecdotes, and I need to end on this because if nothing, we are more connected to as assessment people than instruction. And so as you're thinking about that, I want to throw out a few things for you to think about. Our instructional leaders, principals, and others, are you just giving them educator sight? And if so, I want you to think about another aspect of some of these accounts. Do you know what educator site doesn't give you access to? You know all those incredibly valuable instructional resources that are part of the interim assessments? Okay, there are nuances of the different accounts and what you get and what you don't that I want to encourage you to explore. Our instructional leaders need to have the power of the instructional value of the interim assessments. So as you're thinking through, what are you going to give different individuals? Those are some of the considerations. What are you giving them? Are they trained and know what it is that you are giving them? And are you aware of what they don't get that they might need? So again, this is a wonderful time as you're getting yourselves ready for this break. LEA coordinators, again, I say this, we ask you, help us with this. Help us to monitor, manage, instruct, so that to the greatest extent possible, we can all, one, have the benefit of this incredible resource to put at the disposal of our teachers and students, but all while maintaining the integrity of these assessments. With that, Tyler, thank you so much. To
Uh,
everybody, again, thank you guys. Have a wonderful holiday break. And if there's anything you need and any question you have, don't forget your lifeline to success are your success agents.
And on that note, Moses, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add one key piece of information with the Tom's information that you shared with everyone. As your success agent team, it's really important that the phone numbers are definitely updated. Not only are we a team of success agents that are here at your beck and call, as soon as you email, chat, or even phone into us, but we're also a team that does a lot of outreach. And so while you guys may receive an abundance of information from our overall team, know that your success agents are actually, we're sending you emails, and I'm sure that you guys are very familiar with them in the last couple of months. And so it's crucial. If we can't reach you by email, we definitely want to be able to reach you by phone. So it's really important for us. We don't want any setbacks. So make sure you get your phone numbers in there. If you're a staff member that's running around to all your sites and it's really hard to reach you at your district site, put your cell phone number on there. You don't have to worry about us sending you anything that's not related to what we actually need to reach you about. So please update your phone numbers. We want to get in touch with you. Thank you.
Yeah, and there were a few questions actually about specifically about phone numbers for like TA and TE accounts. And if teachers don't have a direct line in their classroom. I think this what Moses and Sylvia are talking about is it's most important for us, our district coordinators, for LEA coordinators to have the accurate phone number. Um, and site coordinators would be great, but I think the main thing is to put at least the school's main phone number, right, for other accounts in there. Just avoiding putting in fake numbers or anything like that that isn't useful, I think, is the main takeaway there.
And Tyler, I can answer one. Someone asked, when should we expect the Chrome OS version 142 to be supported with the secure browser? And the short answer is I don't have an answer for you. We are in the phases of testing it, but we don't have a concrete date for the version to be supported. So stay tuned on the secure browsers webpage. They'll put it up as soon as it's supported.
Yeah, and I can put a link to that supported operating systems page.
And then Tyler and Moses, I'm going to ask for your help with this question, but this person asked, what do I need to do if a test examiner changed last name, got married? Do I need to delete the Tom's account and create a new one? And my guess is if their email account has changed, they would need to create a new account. If the email address didn't change and just the name changed, are they able to edit the name in the user?
You are absolutely correct,
Okay,
Christine.
that's
Everything
what I
is
thought.
tied to the email address. And so if they do opt to move forward with updating their name as far as the email address goes, then yes, they would need an entire new Tom's account. If it's just their name that they want to alter but remain with the same email address, they can update that in the current Tom's account. That's a great question.
And I have this one, maybe Moses, you can help with, or if there are any other coordinators out there that have some suggestions, please feel free to put it in the Q&A. But this person's asking, they understand the importance and value of the interim assessments, but after trying very hard to encourage their schools to use the interim assessments, they're not having any success, and they're wondering what else can they do? We have any resources or suggestions that they can give to the decision makers in their LEA to further encourage the use and get them to understand the importance and value? So please coordinators, feel free to share any resources in the Q&A that you'd like to share with this coordinator. And Moses, I don't know if you have anything that you would suggest in terms of getting buy-in on the interim assessments.
I was gonna say, I mean, we'll let a lot of the experienced folks put information in there, but something that I've heard from a lot of folks is starting small, starting with interim assessments that don't have hand scoring, right? So just maybe picking certain interim assessments that are not the ICAs that are huge and long and require hand scoring, or other blocks that require hand scoring. Pick a few out that are easy to administer, that the scores just go right into SIRS, um, and don't give them so much to choose from, because there's a lot of options in the interim assessment. So that's one thing that I've heard from a lot of folks. Um,
Christine, if I may, and Jamie, or Jemmy, if I would say it right, I put the best answer I can possibly give you is there in the Q&A. Please, seriously, honestly, I say this wholeheartedly. 14 years of working this in our LEA, I bring to you, Jemmy, if nothing else, this. Seriously, shoot me an email. I would be more than happy to sit and talk with you at an LEA level coordinator about some strategies aside from the incredibly good ones that Tyler just shared with you. There is absolutely nothing more valuable for me to do than to spend a few minutes with you. There's my email. If you go to my email, you'll see a link. I would love to sit and spend a few minutes talking with you, talking through this issue with you from an LEA coordinator perspective. I will just say this, there's absolutely seriously, I say this, Jemmy, for you to know the truth about this. In 35 years of being an educator in this state of California, we have never had anything more valuable put in our hands as educators to use with our students than the interim assessment system.
High praise.
I will gladly take time to sit with you and walk you through that and talk with you about that.
Yeah, and we have a few trainings that might be helpful as
Yeah.
well. So keep an eye out we have recorded interim informative assessment trainings from the
Okay.
summer and early fall. And there's some shared practices webinars, some older recorded ones and newer ones coming up to the shared practice webinars I think there's, both formative and tools for teachers focused ones and interim focused ones. So let's finish out our slides here, and then we can get to the rest of our um, questions.
Yeah.
So I think we have a slide next that covers some stairs topics. I think a bit of a repeat, but an important one. So I'll hand it over to Vincent.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Yes, this month we are going to repeat information that you guys heard from Colton last month in my absence. But it is important information, as this is a major change for this year. First and foremost, of course, is mid-year grade changes will no longer require a reset and restore appeal to be completed. But this only goes for students that are within their grade span, not those outside of the grade level. Outside of grade span, you're going to retest those students by resetting their tests, and then they get to test at their new grade level because it's out of the span. We just want to make sure that everyone is aware of this and that you guys don't go resetting tests for students that don't need to be reset for those within band. So, like if a student is grade 3 and they're moving to grade 4, no resets are required. They'll get their student SSR to display at that grade level that they tested at, and their grade after testing or their grade assessed outside of grade assessed will be at that 4. And then here we have, it's also relatable to the California Science Test for high school. So for this one, again, you won't need to retest the student that is moving to a different grade in the high school assessment, as each of the assessments is taken either at grade 10, 11, or 12. It is one one span.
Mm.
So a reset and retest is not required here. And I think that's everything for me.
Thanks, Vincent. All right. Well, we'll move on to a few call drivers, some things that are coming up a lot for our success agents or on the helpline. So I'll hand it over to Sylvia to cover some of these.
Hello again, and thank you, Tyler. So I only have a couple of topics this month. We're going to try to keep it short and sweet for you guys. The first one is a question that we get every single year, and it says, why are assessments missing from the test administrator, also known as the TA interface? Well, so what we're going to tell you anytime that you email in, or if you chat, or if you call and say, have these teachers with students in the seat. The main thing is that those you teachers or educators, they have not logged into their Tom's account yet for that current school year. And so what I would tell you to that is as you are adding your users into Tom's, make sure that you go back and that you pull the security forms and remote administration status report that's available in Tom's, both at the district level, also known as the LEA level, or site level, just depending on the way that you want to look at it. That way you can have an idea and a list of each user per role. And I say per role because we do have users that wear multiple hats at our school sites. And so this will allow you to be able to see if they've logged into Tom's, if they've viewed and signed, submitted those forms. And if so, they should be good to go and should never run into an assessment not being displayed in the TA interface. And if for some reason they are, you're going to reference back to this report. This report is also good. It'll plain and simple write out for you that, hey, this person has not accessed or signed their forms. It'll allow you to give them that quick nudge or reminder as needed to go ahead and sign your forms. I highly, highly, as your success agent, recommend pulling this report 2 to 3 times before you start testing come the new year once we get into the spring season. That way you can be on top of it and you can minimize those contacts that you guys get locally because again, we know that you guys are running around also between your school sites. And that's what I've got for this one. And for the second topic, um, the assessments are only going to appear in the TA interface once the testing window for the school is open. And so this is directly related to our LEA CAASPP coordinator folks on our meeting today. Um, we have been reaching out to you diligently about setting up your CASP testing window, and kudos. Thank you guys so much. We have, I think, almost everyone, close to everyone, having their window set up. It's really, really important that you guys take just 30 seconds, navigate to Tom's, click on that admins tab, and there you're going to see your window set up. There's going to be a blue hyperlink that reads View Summary. That summary is going to allow you to see a quick synopsis of what your window looks like, what you selected. And on that same home page, you'll be able to select the school assignments tab. It's a rectangular circular button that says school assignments. Make sure you click on that. If your school sites are not attached to that window, know that come testing day, those students will not be able to access the test because you have not given the system permission for your students to access the test. So it is a two-part thing. We're hopeful that in the future it'll be a little bit easier to square those two parts away when setting up your admin window. But for now, make sure you log in there, check your admins tab, click the school assignments tab, make sure that your schools are assigned. And if they are not, please reach out to me, reach out to any one of your success agents so we can help you get those assigned. Thank you guys and happy holidays. Don't forget to join Connect for Success next week.
Thanks, Sylvia.
And just something quick on this topic. A reminder that LPAC begins February 2nd. And so if you do try to log into the summative or start a session for summative LPAC prior to that, it will not appear in the test administrator interface because that window hadn't opened either. So this is relative to both CASP and LPAC. Regardless, you just need to make sure that the window is open before you can begin testing.
Thanks, Dina. All right, and I think just a couple of quick reminders here at the end. Uh, kind of a big one though, that you have received an email about already, but results for the 2024-25 California Spanish Assessment, or CSA. Those results have been released now. There was a delay because of the changed blueprints for this administration. So those results are now available. And there's some extra info in that email and on our website about those results. And then also the deadline to set, and we talked a little bit about testing windows, but just to make sure we say it again, the deadline for those setting those summative CAASPP testing windows has passed, so you'll need to contact your success agent if you need to modify or create those windows. All right, I think that brings us to the end of our prepared topics. So we'll get to uh, some of our other questions in here, and I saw a lot of folks adding some perspective about how they use interim assessments as well. So thank you so much for that. You should be able, in the Q&A feature in Zoom, you can go and look at all the other open questions and answered questions. So make sure to go and take a look at that if you're interested in what other people have asked and what those answers are. And I see a few, Moses, that you have marked to answer. Do you want to do those?
Yeah, and before that, Jimmy, you heard what Tyler just said right now. Please, as we're talking and before the session ends, if you haven't already done so, Jimmy, please take a look. Go to the app, go to the Q&A, click on answered. Some of your colleagues, some of our colleagues here have given some incredibly valuable insight into your specific question. Aside from the great suggestions that Tyler gave, please take a look at some of your colleagues and what they have shared about their experiences, their journey, and it is exactly that, Jimmy. And that will be one of the first things that you and I talk about, the fact that it is a journey. And take a look at some of the experiences that some of your colleagues have shared about their journey with their LEAs around the interim assessments. Just quickly, where's the first one that I wanted to answer? Natalie, yes, wonderful point and wonderful observation, and it is true. For now, and we'll take this back. You have your colleagues from both the CDE and ETS here, and we will. That's a wonderful observation about the TOMS accounts and the LEA CAS coordinator as opposed to the LEA LPAC coordinator, and a little nuance or a little detail about what one or the other can assign. Um, you are right. It is true. It's not a glitch. It's the way it's set up now, and it's a great observation. And we will take that back and look at possibility of adjusting that. But you are right, and it is true. Um, Tyler, unless you can think of a reason why it's still that way or why it's set up that way, I don't. Yeah, exactly. Um, Natalie, don't worry. We acknowledge it. It is something that we will take back and we will look at, because it is true. It needs to be reconsidered. So thank you for that. Um, Sandra, wonderful point, wonderful question, incredibly important. And Sandra, I will say this: remember that sample interim assessment security agreement that we recommend? If you will look there, you will see that one of the biggest things, and I'll tell you now, just talking to one of the RANs this past week that I got to visit, this is one of the most interesting and new and most prevalent situations that we are dealing with in such creative ways. Because the more, and there's the interesting thing, Sandra, the more we encourage you to use the interim assessments, And the more you guys are taking us at our word and using them with your teachers for PD and in different ways, the more this is coming up. And the more we need to emphasize the fact that the answer, Sandra, is no. And the way it's worded is that no interim assessment content can be uploaded or downloaded, or however you want to say it, to any third party platform. And there are many LEAs that have their own learning management systems, and they're using them incredibly creative and powerfully for PD purposes and otherwise. But the issue is that once that content is taken out from the Tom's account that is needed to log into and access it and put on a third party platform, we have compromised the integrity of that content. And so Google and other third party platforms that you might be using incredibly well and incredibly powerfully to the benefit of your teachers and students, the interim assessment content cannot be hosted on any third party platform like that. I think those were all the ones I marked, Tyler.
Yeah, sounds good. And I've got a few about accessibility resources that I can answer. There was one question about the upload file for test settings. If I upload a file to Tom's and a few days later upload another file with some supports or accommodations that were not included in the first file, will the second file completely overwrite the first file? We get a lot of questions about this. So it's a good question, and the answer is it depends. And so if the um, if the same student exists in both files, then the new file will overwrite the settings for that student. So if you're including the same student, like if there's an addition or a subtraction of a resource for a particular student, then you need to add to that student, right? So the second file will need to have the one that was assigned previously and the one that was and the new one, right? But if the file only contains new students, that you didn't change previously, then it won't override anything. So it's by student and what is included in the file, but that file can, yeah, add or take away any settings in there. So you do have to be careful with that. A lot of folks, I think, either maintain one ongoing file that they then change. So that they don't override things, or they'll do one or two big mass uploads until a certain point of the year, and then do changes one by one, so that they don't run into that issue. There was another question about, do accommodations and designated supports added on the ELPAC carry over to CAASPP or the SBAC, Smarter Balanced Assessments? And the answer to that is no. Generally, assessments or accessibility resources or test settings are applied and chosen for a particular assessment, and only apply to certain assessments. So if you're giving something that is kind of universal to all tests, like color contrast, I think, for instance, you need to have it applied for ELPAC and CAASPP separately. And then the last one I saw was, is there an upcoming training that will go over designated supports, accessibility resources in detail, with a Q&A? So we had one a little while back that was focused on, it's kind of a high level webinar for any educators about accessibility resources. So I'll put the link to that recording in the chat. And then there's also one of the new coordinator trainings, new coordinator webinars focused on accessibility resources as well. So I can also add that. If you go to our upcoming and on-demand training page, that has like all of our trainings if you search by accessibility resources. There's also some on-demand modules that you can like take at any time. And then of course our main accessibility resources page has a bunch of resources, but yeah, and as far as I know, no dedicated trainings for the rest of the admin year on accessibility resources specifically. But if you have questions, you can always reach out to us. And I'll put some links in the chat for everyone in case other folks are interested. Anybody else have questions marked that they would like to jump in with?
Yeah, Tyler, I have one, and now and Wendy have been dialoguing about this one. And Wendy, let me acknowledge it is um, field 160 that you were referring to. And Wendy, I don't know if you were from Newport Mesa Unified or not, but I say that because this was brought to our attention just today. Um, we're looking, as Anel mentioned, we are working with this and the data file for the CSA and that specific field 160. We will, I just a few minutes before this meeting was in consultations with our Tom's team, so we're looking into that specific situation. Um, we will get back to the field with a communication. I'll note your name. I know that we have one other LEA, Wendy, unless you are the Newport Mesa Unified, that brought this to our attention that we were working with it this morning. But yes, we will be getting back to the field, to all of you with regards to that one situation of the CSA Field 160.
Sorry, I got my links in the chat there. So we'll take another quick look. Let's see here.
Taylor, can I take
Yeah.
one? We have a few that are starting to ask about getting the API and their SIS vendors test settings pushed over for the year. If you've not uploaded your first file for the year into the 25-26 TOMS, you will need to do so, kind of in the old days where you just get this system started. Once you push that file through TOMS with the test settings upload file, anything going forward can be pushed through your vendor. But you do need to start the initial upload into TOMS. Please remember anything that you upload in that original file or the initial file will and can be overrode by whatever your vendor pushes if it's not included. So you will want to make sure, say whatever your vendor has in currently matches what you may upload today or through the winter break, so nothing gets erased and you're kind of playing the back and forth of cleaning up your test settings. But yes, you do need to actually establish an initial upload through TOMS before anything will flow from your vendors. Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I saw a couple questions come in that I should be able to answer. One, bit of a tip and reminder from Eric Wenrick, who in regards to the ELPAC, ordering ELPAC materials, to just remember to actually review and submit any primary material ELPAC material orders. So you can upload everything, but it won't actually be complete and show up in the view and track orders until you actually like review and submit it. So yeah, just a reminder that that window's open now, and you want to make sure to get all the way through that process. So thanks, Eric, for that. A question about interim assessment, a couple questions about interim assessments also, that we can do real quick. In Tools for Teachers, and I think it's actually in the interim assessment item portal, interims can be downloaded in PDF form. Can those be copied and shared with students? Yes. So that's the flexibility with interim assessments, is that you can use them in non-standardized ways and in creative ways. And one of those ways is to share them with with students in the classroom, either printed out or projecting them on the screen with the interim assessment um, viewing system. Just make sure that those if you are printing out PDFs, they shouldn't go home with the student because the parents are not allowed to see it, right? It's supposed to be used flexibly with students and educators. So it should stay in the classroom, but yes, absolutely, those can be shared with students. And then also a question about how can you give interim at grade level when the students have not received the content. There's probably even more to this about different ways people use them, but you can um, you can give interim assessments off grade level. So students who haven't been taught content yet, maybe they should be given an interim assessment at a grade level below. That's always an option as well. So you could um, use those interim assessments kind of flexibly to match what the students have seen. We've got a few other questions that we'll try to get in here last second, but we are at time, and I want to respect everybody's time. We thank you all so much for joining us and spending some time here with us. So we will get you out of here, and if you have any questions that haven't been answered yet, feel free to reach out to your success agent, and we'll make sure to get you some answers. So thank you all so much. We hope that you all have a peaceful and hopefully restful and smooth holiday season. Hopefully you all get a chance to take a little break at some point. um, at least for a little while. And we will see you in January. Well, hopefully we'll see a lot of you all tomorrow for pretest or for other trainings, Connect for Success coming up as well. But we'll see you again for a coffee session in January, and hope you all have a great end to your calendar year here.
Thank
Thank you so much,
you.
everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Have a great
Have a
winter
great day,
break when it
everybody.
comes.